Okay, so we are live. I would hope that you're paying attention and ready to ask. Okay, this may even go up on Netflix as a special. Who knows? You know, it's going to be that award-winning. Long story short, the reminder is about the upload for tomorrow for the comparative essay. I think we've done enough to remind you as to what the code should be and the proper formatting. Shout out to any Yonsei fans. Really, what we need to cover in today's tutorial is the third task. Specifically, if we jump straight ahead to the most important thing of all, the draft is to be uploaded by the last Friday of the term, which is a public holiday, which is week 11, okay? Students will then receive their feedback in the first week of holidays with the expectation for you to then record, and we'll go into that more, record your oral. Okay, question, Ethan.
If we were to have to start doing this stuff at home,
Mm-hmm.
we also have the holidays to do it?
That is the holidays.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so good question. So the final is actually, Ms. Zillman and I won't be saying, please, thank you, can we have your recording and transcript, because they're the two formal pieces. They're not due until Friday, the first week back, so term 2. But yes, everything online, but the idea is that this task is one that can be finished in the holidays, so we can then focus on the external and the other 2-3 remaining tasks for term 2. Okay, but good question. Okay, if you're unsure as to what device or how you might record, there's actually resources for that, but thank you, Ethan. So let's go ahead, and the goal is to tackle points 1 through to 5. Okay, during this time, raise your hand, and quite frankly, if you're thinking it, someone else is thinking it. So Ethan has asked an excellent question. Please voice your concern or query. Now, unfortunately, due to DayMap only simply being a library of throwing up information, I have only put the task up. But please note that on OneNote, we are looking at the following outline. So under novel study, we have resources for the messenger. Okay, and I'll go through them shortly. And they're broken down to your the task itself, explanation, analysis, then the writing itself, and examples. We then have supporting material that relates to using a recording device such as PowerPoint or Audacity, and some reminders there. If you've chosen to analyze the simple gift, thanks to Ms. Zillman and her resources that she has provided, you'll find those resources under the simple gift tab. Please be aware that you do not have to compare or talk about 2 novels, only 1. I have had a student do that in the past, and believe me, it gets messy. But that's the overall focus. Please note that if you're studying the simple gift, the structure still applies to you. However, it hasn't been formally changed to if you're writing about the simple gift, because they're examples. The A examples still apply because it's not the content that you're really considering, but rather the structure when it comes to presenting this oral recording. All right. Let's jump into the assignment sheet. Although we've already looked at this, dare I ask how many of you have finished reading or listening to your novel? I guess we'll wait and see. But the focus is this. You need to present an oral in which you identify some of the key ideas in the messenger or the simple gift and analyze the language features, stylistic features, and conventions used to develop these ideas. You need to select a specific audience to deliver the oral to, and you may choose to be someone else as the presenter, and that'll be clear in a matter of moments. So you have the option of choosing one of the options below. 1, you are imagining that you're either Marcus Zusak or Stephen Herrick, and you're presenting as the author, whether this be at a writers' festival or a retrospect, okay, about the novel. As the author, you are to discuss how you use literary devices to explore your key ideas. So this is where you are avoiding, especially at Year 12, recounting plot, but rather, just like any analysis, defining how techniques are used to create meaning. 2 is simply the same, but as Stephen Herrick for a simple gift. The third and potential 4th option that you would consult with the 4th, but the third one that some students did last year was that they wrote the oral and transcript and formed it from a student helping out another student as a cheat sheet. So they used the scenario of this being an exam, which English hasn't had for a long time, but instead of writing it from the author's perspective, they've written it from a student saying, hey, I'm here to help you pass that exam on the messenger or the simple gift. Okay? 4th is in consultation. It's a rarity that we would have a student then pretend to be an interviewer interviewing the author and their responses, but there is variation as to what the subject may be for the oral. In terms of possible ideas, knowing that these books both very much travel in the same realm, you are looking for, or as the student, either as the author or as a student, to show your understanding of some of these ideas. These are themes. Now, for Whiplash, we had 2 suggested themes which you expanded upon and what they meant. Here, the same has been applied, but they're one subject theme. So, heroism, courage, morality, identity, overcoming obstacles, selflessness, belonging, prejudice, and choices. Now, your job as the student, first and foremost, will be to identify those themes or which ones maybe you resonated with the most in your text, but then expand upon what you, as the hypothetical author giving a presentation, is hoping or had hoped the reader to understand. Okay? And does anyone want to answer this? Do you think you have to show your understanding of all those themes? No. If anything, you can pick one theme and develop it across 3 paragraphs or 3 lines of argument, okay, as to what the intention was, or you might pick 3 separate themes and show your understanding of them, okay? Possible literary devices and conventions are on the right there, which we'll go through shortly, but to show a range, you'd be looking to show at least 4 or 5 of these in depth and analysis of characterization, symbolism, metaphor, setting, foreshadowing, flashbacks, illusion, personification, Bildungsroman, flashbacks. Now, if that second to last one you're unsure about, you're about to learn about it shortly. On OneNote, we have suggested that you use the structure for guidance, which you do not have to use, but it is suggested. But we are looking for you to cover at least 3 themes, or at least 1 in detail with 3 different perspectives, but at least 3 techniques within each. Okay? This is a task whereby you can use the informal first person. Because as the author, you may say, I used, or to, in terms of the intended suggestion. For option 2, even as a teenager, you may use Australian slang. Clearly you're not going to be swearing to your fellow student, but it may be a little bit more informal. We've gone through the due dates on a day map, but as we dive into the task, are there any questions up until this point? Even if you think it's going to be answered. Paris. Fantastic, an excellent question. There's 2 options. 1, you just audio record it as an MP3. Clearly, we'd be still considering pace, tone, and delivery and timing, so within the 6 minutes, but you do not visually have to be on screen. Alternatively, as you'll see in an example, you may like to do that, but with a PowerPoint that uses the added structural visual element of showing quotes and images as to what you're talking about. The third potential option, if you wish to do so, is to have yourself recorded and pretend to be, with the mannerisms and tone and inflection, recorded in front of an audience. But it's really, the option is up to you. We're looking at you communicating verbally in a clear and precise manner.
Are you going to be advantaged grade-wise if you do make a PowerPoint in that?
The PowerPoint, I do personally believe, for that extra little bit of detail, captures more than just an MP3 recording. And you'll see that through the example, it's, if anything, it's allowing you to make sure the moderator understands exactly what you're saying, both through spoken word, but also images.
So would you be saying that do the PowerPoint on here and then like with some technology speak and click through PowerPoint?
Yep. Yep, and just quickly, there's a nice little way to show that, but it is under the suggestion as to how to use PowerPoint. And I even have an example. So if I would jump right ahead, it's as simple as having an introduction slide like this, where you would give your introduction, and clearly we wouldn't have the green here, but what a student did was, for their first theme, was they had this slide up, and they spoke about, there's a bit of formatting there, but they fixed that, where they had both the intention, the techniques, and a visual image of saying, was it lonely, kind, quiet, hard drinking, deadbeat, man who never had a bad word for anybody. So this is clearly about Ed's father, and they used visual images to represent that. All they did, in terms of to record that moment, was they jumped inside the PowerPoint, they clicked insert, and they went to audio record, and they recorded their audio. And they're able to do it in 1 paragraph. But there is, I believe, and Mrs. Hill may say otherwise, an added advantage of having a visual element to your presentation. Okay? No, yep. Not necessarily, no. But if we look to the rubric and the application, okay, we have Versatile and precise use of language and stylistic features to create a wide range of coherent texts that address the purpose, audience, and context. A moderator may look at that and say, yep, communication as a verbal voice or recording is you recording a speech or an audio address. You might then change yours to being a podcast from the author talking about the retrospect, because what does a podcast solely rely upon? Voice or audio, okay? However, if it takes just that extra little bit of finesse to have a PowerPoint that still captures both the audio but shows a different range of stylistic features such as imagery, it may work in your advantage, okay? Thank you for that. All right, so that's there. Now, this is going to be a bit difficult in terms of, and we can't go through all the resources at once, but this will be based on your reflection, which will be given time tomorrow. If we were to start with the messenger, okay, I've gone ahead and created the following PowerPoint. It has varied slightly if you looked at it from last time, just because formatting was not my friend. But what I've hoped to capture in this PowerPoint are those specific terms of language features, stylistic features, and conventions, and where they appear. Now, where possible, I've tried to break down why we are tackling this and what you're assessed upon, okay, and why you need to show a range. But long story short, this PowerPoint summarizes plot, characterization, dialogue, theme, symbolism, allusion, metafiction, and imagery. At a basic, this should be the founding resource for, if you are to write about the messenger, your understanding of the text and just some of the ways you, as Marcus Zusak, used convention and language features to create meaning. Whether it be from the plot to that cheeky ending. So who here read The Messenger? Okay, thank you. Who here is still reading The Messenger? That's not to throw you on the bus, but if I give, I guess, the ending away, who's going to be like, "Aw"? Okay. I really want you to think about then, as Zusak, how you may have used Deus Ex Machina or broken the fourth wall in that ending, and what was the intended effect. Now, I won't say too much about this, but at this point we should be up to the point of just simple discussion. But this goes through both the simple idea of expanding upon a theme. So would we all agree that the messenger is hoping to help us understand that recognizing the extraordinary in ordinary lives? Yep. How one small act of kindness can have a ripple effect or big meaning? Okay. I want you to think about the empty shoebox or the ice cream or something as simple as the Christmas lights. But you as the author can argue that so long as you have evidence and the intended effect. Now, when we look at a theme, the reminder is that this theme within itself might relate to success is in the person, not the job. Success is in relationships and how we view them, or the power of literature to transform the real world. Your decision is to look at the examples and decide what you're going to argue. And in a way, in the following PowerPoint, I've also suggested that you could simply focus a paragraph, or rather part of your text, on what you were trying to say about ordinary, what you were trying to say about being a hero, or sainthood, or having hope, or is there a difference between circumstance and choice, and everything else that is on this page. I want to remind you now that there's an additional PowerPoint for those studying the messenger that has quotes and why you should use and embed quotes, whereby I've pulled out some of my favorite quotes from my experience of the messenger and suggested what themes it could explore. The goal for you, as Parrish gently naps and listens to my somber monotone voice, is to consider what does that theme say, or what does that quote help to convey. Characters are a simple understanding, okay? It's what they say, what they do, how they act, even how they look, okay? And I want you to think about how Ed, at the very beginning of the novel, somewhat compares himself to literary and historical greats, such as Bob Dylan, Salvador Dali, and if I remember, Joan of Arc. There we go. So he has no sense of accomplishment or achievement. Quite frankly, does the quote, "no real career, no respect in the community," nothing? What does that help convey about Ed? Does he lack confidence? Does he have no ambition? Yes. Is that a triplet because it uses 3 statements? Yes. Okay. Now remember, there's only so much I can do, or Ms. Zilm can do, to help you in the draft. You, as the author or the student, should be able to draw from that. And you're kind of going to need to, because that's what the assignment is asking for you. Moving on, we have other characterization. okay, and I'm not going to spend a wealth going through these, but you'll see that I've tried to embed quotes throughout that might help you reflect on that. Everything from the first interaction of the card in the mail, okay, to the cards that we have been dealt. The fact that it's called the messenger and it has a motif of a pack of playing cards. What do those cards help to symbolize? A message, yep. But what else? What do we say about the cards that we've been dealt in life? Sorry, Nick? Yeah. So he has to use the ones that he has. Yep. And throughout this PowerPoint, I've asked you questions, okay? But we go through the transformation as Ed Kennedy. We see his relationship with Audrey, where we initially see him being in the friend zone, to something much, much more by the end. His mother, Ma, okay? His father, and this is why I love this, a lonely, kind, quiet, hard-drinking deadbeat. He was a furniture deliverer, okay? Does anyone remember how Ed's father dies? Sorry, Marshall? Well, sorry, say that again. Liver failure, but where was he found? In the truck. So it kind of paints a picture of someone who somewhat was the epitome of a deadbeat, so to die quietly as well. Does this somewhat foreshadow Ed's own worry and fear of his own life? Okay. If he feels that he's going nowhere, why is him being a taxi driver quite symbolic? He's going everywhere, or he's taking what? Other people to where they need to go. And we have the support of minor characters, whether it be the Darling Miller, Sophie, the Tapu family, okay? You can simply draw upon them. But one of the biggest strengths of the messenger is metafiction. Now, this is a big fancy word that will look good in your moderation, but it's how you deliver it. It's simply whereby a literary work draws upon itself, pretending to be true. Now, how does the messenger blur the difference between fiction and fact? Sorry? Tough crowd. I know. Do you think reading this PowerPoint might be useful then? Okay. No, that's true. And look, I'm going to move simple gift. But in short, it breaks the fourth wall. The fact is, I'm going to spoil it because you really should have read the book by this point, is that the person controlling the cards in Ed Kennedy's life is Markus Zusak himself. It's the author. Okay? And so that blurs the boundary between life and fiction, fact and reality, quite frankly, because Ed becomes much more than a fictional character. Now, as an author, it would be my intention, if I was to paraphrase and maybe talk as Markus Zusak, for you as the reader to walk away having connected to the fictional character. Correct? Yep. Is it my hope that if you were to read a book and then resonate with your own life and be inspired, that you might make a change or see things differently? Yeah. And quite frankly, they say that all works of fiction are based on fact, and all fact is a little bit steeped in fiction. And so you might think about how you might use that as the author to argue that. Okay. One great moment is whereby Ed is told by the narrator or Zusak, "You're the epitome of ordinariness, Ed. If a guy like you can stand up and do what you did for all those people, well, maybe everyone can. Maybe everyone can live beyond what they're capable of. Maybe even I can." And Zusak did come out and say that at the time of this writing, Ed very much represented himself in his own mindset as to how he saw himself as a writer. Going nowhere, struggling, wondering if this was going to be the road that he was going to take. There's a few more examples on metafiction. Okay. And we go through a few more other examples. Did anyone see any religious allusions throughout the messenger? Okay. Or biblical? Some of them might be, the damn card is like gravity itself. Nice simile there. Like a cross strapped across my back. Who's he talking about when he's talking about a cross strapped across his back? Jesus. Old mate Jesus, yeah. Look, you might even write that into old mate Jesus, but there's a lot of biblical allusions, okay? There's the imagery of night and day in terms of being able to see something clearly or having power and compassion to being afraid, okay? We have the conventions of symbolism. What do we initially think of Marv as a minor character when we're first introduced to him? You could have a whole paragraph focus on a minor character as Marv. What do we think of Marv? Come on, he's got a shitbox Ford. Bit rough around the edges, stingy with his money. Yep. What does that reveal to be? What is the, we always say don't judge a book by its cover. How might Marv fit that idiom? Because what do we learn? Why is Marv saving all his money? For his child, which he had at a wetlock or in a relationship which he's not allowed to see, but he's saving all his money for his darling daughter, which even Ed didn't know about. So each of his friends represent a different facet of that. So we have the cards and what they symbolize. I like the fact that the game Annoyance suggests that friends might annoy you, but you still love them and gather around them. To everything from the aces, the suits, okay? The setting of this, small Sydney suburban town, okay? But it's all there. Your job is to dissect and think about some examples. Now, in terms of the simple gift, okay? Actually, the messenger, we have the quotes PowerPoint, we have reading notes. A reminder for both is that if you need a refresher on literary techniques, you have these shorthands, which remind you what characterization, symbolism, and setting, and all the rest actually stand for. I would hope that by year 12 English, you would have covered these, at least in year 11, which I know that I hopefully did a very good job of last year. But this is where you are to reinforce your understanding of language technique. If we jump over to the simple gift, you have the same resource available to you. You actually have a Q&A from Stephen Herrick, which talks about his intention of writing the novel, but more importantly, the simple shorthand of some of the very techniques that help stand out in Stephen Herrick's free-verse poem. So it's the structure, it's the style, it's the perspective, it's the use of flashbacks, notes, and direct speech and conversation. We've gone ahead and drawn up a little grid to help remind you that, in essence, as Stephen Herrick, if you were to show your understanding of at least 5 of these with examples, you have achieved an insightful analysis. So it's more restricted on your time limit of 6 minutes. But as you'll see in the A examples, students were able to write a short introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion, and perform that in 6 minutes as a presentation. 3 examples at least within a paragraph. If you embed your quotes cleverly and efficiently, you'll be able to achieve that. And what Ms. Zilm, bless her cotton soul, has gone ahead and made is a PowerPoint reminding you on how to embed quotes, which you can review. And this will come through in your drafting and formality, but having seen what was achieved in Whiplash, we are very confident that you are able to embed quotes. But this is just a reminder. Now, the resources are there, and they will take some time for you to explore, which we can give time for. But let's note that there's an A+ example. There's an A+ example from last year. There's a C- example. There's the structure for the messenger in terms of the visual presentation. And there's the 2 guiding oral suggestions. Whereby, if you simply want to make your notes based on something as simple as this, where you know that you're going to have theme 1, 2, 3, where does it link to the main idea, where does it happen in the novel, and 3 examples of technique, that's all you need to do before you write. But if you want a little bit more structure than that, you might consider using this document of structuring your oral, whereby we've told you what you might include in your introduction, what you might include in your conclusion, how you might write from the voice of an author, and approach your entire essay like this. So, option 1 are 3 different themes and a variety of techniques, where we have theme 1, 2, and 3, but the student made sure to find an example of symbolism, characterization, deus ex machina for theme 1, then for theme 2, symbolism, illusion, characterization, then for theme 3, symbolism, foreshadowing, and setting. Does that show, just as a plan, a range of technique? Yeah. You then have option 2 of, and if you can achieve this, you can still have insightful analysis depending on the level of insight and examples by focusing on 3 different themes, but repeating the 3 techniques. But we would hope to see variation, because can characterization be suggested beyond just what the character says and what they look like? Yep, this can be simile, metaphor, even imagery. So you have that option there. The third option, okay, is to then focus on one theme and then remain within one technique, which can be a bit of a tricky situation if you don't actually have 3. But regardless, you're actually setting yourself up to potentially achieve either one of these. But the goal is that you need to find the examples and explain them. Final reminder, okay, how to structure a teal paragraph. Okay, there's even an example of where a student was able to make their notes of the theme being family can shape an individual's outlook. Would we all agree that we're all molded by our family? Yep, whether we like to or not. So the example here is his characterization of his father and then the analysis. Clearly the student didn't use all of that, but they took notes to reflect on what they might write within the final presentation, which then turned into something like this, okay, which you can look at, knowing that they were going to have a second and third example. And before I forget, so there's the quotes. In terms of simple gift, you then have the exemplar on character. So here's some suggested quotes, and you can see where they relate to the theme of belonging, the evidence, but then the technique that is used. Hoping to then set up that you're able to write your example. Now, the final reminder that I want to make is this, that you, as the student, are responsible for your audio recording. This means that if you are confident in recording on your phone, make sure you know how to get that recording from your phone to your laptop so we can receive it as an MP3 or MP4 if it's a video. It is not on the teacher to solve your technical problem. It's for you to make sure that in the age of TikTok, Snapchat, and everything else, that we're able to access it. As a fail-safe, we recommend using the free audio software program on your laptop, whether it be Microsoft or Macintosh of Audacity, whereby the great Miss Riley is actually given step-by-step on how to record. And the added advantage to this is that if you record and you make a mistake, you pause, you repeat the line, and you're able to edit it. But we are marking you on and considering how clear your voice is. We don't want to hear something that was recorded at 3 a.m. the night before it was due, where you're having to keep it down because you don't want to wake your parents, nor do we want to see anything that's inappropriate. Okay? I had a student who thought he could submit a video of him recording with his shirt off. And I said, as pleasing as that might be to some moderators, we can't have that. So be aware that at basis, we're looking for an MP3 that is clear, crisp, and within the time frame, but you need to make sure that in the unfortunate event that we're not even here to help you in the first week back, that you know how to record on your device. Please, between now and the end of the week, speak to Ms. Zilm or myself because we can help you, but there's resources there. Okay? Many of you will probably use GarageBand or something along that.
I know this is jumping a bit ahead.
No, nothing.
Say we're not here. How would we get it to a big file?
So, if it's a big file, we would then move to... Did I hear a knock or am I hallucinating? I'm genuinely hallucinating. I thought that was a knock at the door. So what would we ask is that you have it recorded. There's means of accessing it via Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive. I'll do a little video as to how to do that. But the school has a way for you to communicate. Worst case scenario, you hold on to the recording and then we go from there. Okay, but good question. Now, tomorrow's lesson will clearly be for you to delve into these resources and begin planning. I would like to, with my class at least, go through one of the A examples to set the tone as to what is the theme, what are the 3 examples, before giving you time to support. Ms. Zilm has acknowledged that in a way she is the professional on the simple gift while I am the messenger. So if we need to do a bit of a class swap or kind of have you just exist in your novels before the break, we will do so. But apart from that, are there any other general questions? Ethan? Is my neck? Oh, if I scratch it, it gets all red and inflamed. Yeah.
It's just like slowly gotten redder.
Yeah. I'm kind of like a big bullfrog. I must, like, in self-defense, flare up or something like that. So, yeah.
Like really small, it's just gone.
Yeah. I got a thick boy neck. My brother always used to be worried that I would stretch out his shirts if I tried them on. He's like, "Don't do it. You'll stretch the neck." So, I don't know, but I'll have to ask Labasso. He seems to be wearing it better than me. This is all on the recording. But yes, any other questions or queries? Because over the course of the next 3 weeks, it will be to plan your response, have evidence that's embedded to show your understanding, receive that draft feedback, and then record in the holidays. No other questions? Jordan, what novel have you chosen? The Simple Gift. Okay. Is anyone still undecided? Okay. You'd be surprised. I freely admit that a student did very well last year having not read the novel. It didn't help them in their external when they had to do it themselves anyway. But I think the resources speak for themselves. Okay? Cool. All right, I'm going to end the recording there. There's no other general questions? No? Cool. I thank you for your support in this. The other thing that I want to make note of is the following, that in the event that we do go into shutdown, how might you communicate with myself or Miss Zilm? Shout out really loudly, yeah, just like, hi Miss Zilm. Please make sure that you're using Daymap Message to communicate. Please make sure that you have access to OneNote and that you meet the draft deadlines. Okay, we don't know how long or what will happen in term 2, but we're actually at an advantage where English is one of those subjects that can be very much delivered offline, so long as you do the work and check in. Jordan. As in, as of this week? Or now?
Yeah, he wants to go home.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys are sick and tired of hearing my voice. Okay. Clearly my red neck is confusing some of you, So, not my views, but my neck from just poor health. No. Alright.